special for General Foods when I was with the Andy Griffith Show. General Foods had a whole bunch of shows on then, when it was a little cheaper, I guess, for the show.
The Andy Griffith Show has always been remembered as an immortal cultural symbol of American television, a portrait of sincere friendship in the peaceful town of Mayberry. But behind those radiant smiles and that brilliant glow was a completely different reality the public had never known. For decades, audiences believed personal ambition or ordinary conflicts over fame were the main reasons the core cast decided to walk away. But the truth behind this breakup was far more complicated. Just before taking his final breath, actor Don Knotts officially spoke out and revealed the full hidden corner of that fateful chapter in order to clarify every mystery. Decades of questions about the breakup of the Andy Griffith Show finally found an official answer from someone who had lived through it.
I left because Andy had said he would never do the show longer than 5 years. And
everything began to come into focus when actor Jesse Donald Knotts decided to sign the manuscript for his autobiography, Barney Fife and Other Characters I Have Known, published in 1999. In this document, fans were given access for the first time to the hidden side of a systematic misunderstanding that had reshaped the entire landscape of the famous town of Mayberry. He recounted in detail the early conversations with his co-star and producer, Andy Griffith, where a strict timeline had been established. The actor who played the deputy sheriff affirmed that he had only followed a prearranged plan and had never intended to break the structure of this popular television work.
Whose truck is that?
Well, Sam Becker's. I saw him go in the grocery store.
Oh, that's strange, Doc.
And they were going to put him and the one who played his wife, they're going to put them in a series of their own. And they needed a new landlord, so they thought of me.
The book's release opened the way for a series of media appearances meant to correct the record from 2000 to 2005. On national television channels and in archived interviews from this period, the Emmy-winning star repeatedly returned to the core details of the 5-year contract. The story arc and production plan had originally been announced by the head of the show as ending completely after the 5th broadcast season. As that deadline approached, the legendary comedian began searching for new career opportunities to secure stable income for his family. His decision to sign a long-term commercial agreement involving 5 major film projects with Universal Studios was entirely a reactive move intended to prepare for life after Mayberry. In one archived, in-depth interview recording, Don Knotts directly clarified his regret over this media misunderstanding. "If I had known Andy was going to keep the show going, I absolutely would have stayed." In early 2006, the story shifted to the quiet space of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, where the aging artist's health had seriously weakened due to complications from pulmonary failure. In the final hours before his close friend took his last breath on February 24, 2006, Andy Griffith appeared and was the only person outside the family present at the bedside. Direct witnesses to this meeting included his wife, Francie Yarborough, and his daughter, Karen Knotts, who later shared the emotional moment of reconciliation between the two screen legends. The head of the show sat quietly beside him, called his friend by his childhood nickname, and repeatedly encouraged him to keep breathing. This act was not only a farewell between two longtime close friends, but also marked the moment when every boundary of responsibility and every old misunderstanding over legal procedure was finally released before darkness fell. After the comedian passed away, the Knotts family issued official statements on his behalf before the press to protect the spiritual legacy of the late artist. These statements directly rejected tabloid theories about a battle for power or deep personal hatred between the two main stars. The historical course of the series shows that Barney Fife's departure was purely a management incident and an imbalance in how information was updated among the parties involved. The bedside reconciliation in February 2006 closed a long chapter filled with baseless speculation restoring clarity to the backstage relationship. The gifted deputy sheriff's decision to leave in 1965 left an irreplaceable emptiness in the hearts of viewers at the time. That absence immediately placed heavy pressure on those who remained, while changing the entire operating structure of the production team at the CBS studio. The cracks began to appear more clearly as other members of the Mayberry family also started recognizing troubling signs from a system that was no longer whole. Season 5: Domino Effect. The biggest personnel shift in the Andy Griffith Show officially erupted during production of the 5th season around late 1964 and early 1965. When CBS decided to renew the series in spite of the original 5-year plan, the personnel structure on set immediately fell into instability. Artist Jesse Donald Knotts then proposed a compromise to salvage the situation by actively requesting ownership of a small share in the production company Mayberry Enterprises. But the show's leader, Andrew Samuel Griffith, together with his legal representatives, flatly rejected the proposal through an official administrative document. The absence of an economic benefit-sharing mechanism ended the regular presence of the loyal guardian Barney Fife after the season concluded in the spring of 1965. That turning point departure quickly triggered waves of quiet instability inside the team, especially in the relationships among the remaining key members. Veteran actress Frances Elizabeth Bavière, who played the kind-hearted Aunt Bee, repeatedly went through tense working weeks and direct conflicts with the series leader. Coming from a classical theater background in New York City, she felt pinned down and professionally diminished by having to repeat the patterned actions of a rural woman again and again. Production diary notes show that the atmosphere on set was constantly weighed down by the coldness and distance she deliberately created with her co-star. Actress Bavière agreed to maintain her contract only until she completed a small number of episodes in the spin-off series Mayberry RFD before announcing her retirement and cutting off all ties with the production crew. At the same time, the natural development of other characters also accelerated the breakup of the original legendary lineup. Young actor James Thurston Neighbors, who played mechanic Gomer Pyle, officially separated from the main storyline to lead an independent program titled Gomer Pyle USMC, produced by Andy Griffith's own company. Meanwhile, child actor Ronald William Howard, closely associated with the image of Opie Taylor, was also gradually entering adulthood and no longer fit the original family story model. The teenage Howard decided to complete his final scenes before his contract expired in 1968, opening a new chapter for his personal career behind the director's camera. The weakening of the core characters turned the final years of the series into a lonely journey for its captain. Each empty chair left behind in the fictional town of Mayberry not only changed the script but also exposed the harsh commercial management realities of the entertainment industry at that time. As famous stars gradually packed their belongings and left the CBS studio, the ratings chart began showing a steady decline in viewership. The disappearance of familiar faces forced the most powerful man on the show to face a heavy-pressure reality, having to carry the full appeal of the work by himself. These decisions to leave and these systematic divisions were not sudden impulsive acts under the pressure of 1960s fame. To fully decode why financial cracks and cold communication could so easily bring down such an entertainment empire, history must look back at the deep wounds of the past. The secrets left behind in the South and in the early days of their careers will bring the answer back to its original place. Reality gap. The commercial and ratings peak of The Andy Griffith Show was firmly established during its first 4 years on the CBS broadcasting network. Entering this production cycle, the terms in the legal contracts of the parties involved began exposing a clear division in economic benefits. Specifically, the agreements recorded that actor Jesse Donald Knotts received only a fixed salary of around $1,250 for each episode completed at the studio. All later derivative income from commercial reruns, also known as syndication residuals, was not distributed to the actor who played the deputy sheriff. By contrast, Andrew Samuel Griffith held as much as 50% ownership in the production company Mayberry Enterprises, allowing him to accumulate enormous financial returns from broadcast royalty streams that lasted for decades. This economic imbalance unfolded alongside complex behavioral and psychological shifts among the project's leaders behind the camera. Records from direct witnesses present at the scene show that the most powerful man on the show often faced extremely heavy script pressure. prolonged tension led to uncontrolled outbursts of anger shown through the destruction of furniture and dressing room doors right inside the studio space. The deeper cause of these behavioral crises was identified as the major difference in professional recognition, as the character Barney Fife repeatedly received enthusiastic praise from critics. The fact that his co-star won 5 consecutive Emmy Awards for the same role unintentionally created invisible psychological pressure on the standing of the main character. Even while working in a labor environment marked by unequal benefits and influenced by the superior's personality shifts, the comedian who played the deputy sheriff maintained absolute professionalism throughout filming. He actively used his natural improvisational comedy skills to soften conflict and tension among key members on set. This patience and understanding served as an important shock absorber, helping protect the strict production schedule imposed on the team by the CBS network. That quiet working mechanism and smooth coordination between the two main stars helped the series hold its top position in the preferences of the American public at the time. The intersection between brilliant on-screen glamour and harsh backstage reality shaped the special nature of this era. The industrial nature of television in the 1960s forced artists to accept exclusive profit-sharing rules in exchange for the chance to reach mass audiences. While production numbers kept reporting new records, internal cracks caused by inequality were also quietly accumulating to an irreversible level. The buildup of material interest conflicts and unresolved psychological wounds throughout those 4 golden years eventually pushed the main figures toward completely different paths in their independent lives afterward. When the call to wrap the 4th season sounded, each member's timeline began moving toward private upheavals filled with rise and fall. The entire process of change in the post-Mayberry fates would continue to expose the direct consequences of a turbulent era. The legacy endures. The shifting fates after the Andy Griffith Show ended its original broadcast run in 1968 revealed completely different directions in each person's independent life. For Jesse Donald Knotts, the post-Mayberry period brought both new commercial opportunities and major personal challenges. His career achieved several clear milestones through family film projects at Universal, most notably The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. But entering the 1970s, his film career began showing signs of slowing down, forcing him to return to television through supporting roles in other long-running series. In private life, the comedian went through 3 turbulent marriages and faced serious health challenges when macular degeneration caused severe vision loss in his later years. Meanwhile, veteran actress Frances Elizabeth Bavier chose a life completely separated from the glow of the Hollywood entertainment industry. She packed her belongings and moved to the town of Siler City in North Carolina, where she spent her final years in an extremely isolated space beside her 14 cats. Local medical records confirmed that the woman who once played the gentle Aunt Bee took her final breath in 1989 due to health complications of old age. One of the final officially recorded events was a direct phone call she personally made to reconnect with her former co-star Andy Griffith only a few weeks before she passed away, in order to express belated apologies for her complicated personal behavior on the set years earlier. The head of the show himself, Andrew Samuel Griffith, also went through a long journey facing major physical and medical hardships throughout the later decades of his career. In 1983, clinical diagnoses confirmed that the actor had Guillain-Barré syndrome, a serious autoimmune disorder that caused partial paralysis and required a long rehabilitation process. Overcoming physical limits, he continued contributing to the arts before officially passing away from a sudden heart attack in 2012 at his private home on Montego Island. The passing of the gifted captain left a large emptiness in the public's heart, while also officially closing the era of a golden generation of artists who had created the soul of one of America's greatest pop culture symbols. Viewed in terms of commercial and spiritual value, as of May 2026, this classic television work still proves its lasting vitality and strong earning power in the contemporary entertainment market. Major streaming platforms such as Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime have continuously renewed business rights, bringing in huge revenue reaching millions of US dollars from loyal viewers across multiple generations. Alongside that, Mayberry Days is still maintained and held every year by the local government and residents of Mount Airy to honor the core cultural and spiritual values left by the series. Historical film studies published throughout the 2020s consistently use the Deputy Sheriff Barney Fife's late-life confirmations as an official scholarly basis for explaining the personnel structure of the work. The enduring existence of the Mayberry legacy across more than half a century has proven the power of a work shaped by talent and by the real experiences of flesh and blood human beings. As interest disputes and private life upheavals gradually recede into the past, the public now has enough distance and time to look back at everything in the most objective way. The nature of the decisive choices that led to the separation 50 years earlier had actually been shaped long before the CBS cameras began rolling. The starting point of those decisions. The deep roots that shaped all behavior ways of facing economic pressure and major decisions during the production of The Andy Griffith Show lay in the early years of the two core stars. For Jesse Donald Knott's adolescent life in Morgantown, West Virginia, was a chain of extremely harsh psychological challenges created by his unusual family circumstances. His biological father lived with severe schizophrenia along with heavy alcoholism that lasted for many years. Frequently witnessing and directly enduring physically violent threats from a family member inside the home left deep emotional wounds. This brutal experience unintentionally shaped a distinctive feature in the actor's later physical performance style, his nervousness, and naturally anxious tension. In a similar setting in the rural South, Andrew Samuel Griffith's life in Mount Airy, North Carolina, also began on extremely difficult social steps. The Griffith boy grew up in deep poverty, often enduring mockery and stigma from those around him because of his family's disadvantaged background. Material deprivation and wounds to personal dignity during his formative years created a great insecurity inside the young artist. The fear of poverty and the desire to escape it directly created a tendency to control finances absolutely, while also making him place great importance on possession of commercial opportunities once he entered the entertainment industry. Rising beyond the dark colors of childhood, these two independent fates found a turning point intersection when they both joined the theatrical project No Time for Sergeants on the famous Broadway stage in 1955. During their time together in the play, the future powerful man of Mayberry quickly recognized the natural talent and unique ability to create situation comedy moments in his colleague Knotts. Their mutual understanding of professional ability laid the foundation for a strong working bond, leading to a historic recommendation 5 years later. In 1960, Griffith himself actively vouched for and persuaded the producers to give his co-star a special guest appearance in the pilot episode of The Danny Thomas Show. The connection that began on the New York theater stage quickly became the launchpad that carried both names straight into the center of America's national television system at that time. Shared memories of difficult years tied them together, creating an unspoken understanding in their comic exchanges before the camera. Even so, the psychological shadows accumulated from childhood still quietly remained like an underground current beneath the smooth coordination of the two artists. When the CBS studio lights officially switched on to begin the series' 8-year journey, the marks of the past also began operating in their own way. The fear of financial loss and the desire to affirm each person's dominant position unintentionally created strict operating rules inside the dressing rooms. The foundational roots of the decisions that permanently fractured the iconic Mayberry ensemble were established long before the television cameras ever began rolling at CBS. The early years of the two central stars acted as a quiet blueprint for their future administrative and financial choices, injecting personal vulnerabilities directly into the corporate structure of the production. For the performer who inhabited the nervous deputy, a childhood defined by an unstable family environment in West Virginia generated a permanent undercurrent of psychological anxiety. The daily reality of navigating unpredictable behavior from a parental figure left an indelible imprint on his persona, manifesting in a physical acting style that relied heavily on tension and visible unease. Simultaneously, the individual driving the creative direction of the program was navigating a childhood of severe economic hardship in rural North Carolina. Experiencing systematic exclusion due to a lack of material wealth fostered a profound need for systemic control and long-term financial security. When professional success finally arrived, this deep-seated fear of instability transformed into a rigid insistence on absolute ownership rights and a disproportionate distribution of the syndication profits. Consequently, when the opportunity arose to adjust the contractual structure to retain the core cast, the unyielding defensive mechanisms formed in youth prevented any meaningful compromise. Mayberry operated as a pristine, tranquil haven for millions of viewers, but its internal architecture remained entirely bound to the unresolved traumas of its creators. The eventual dissolution of the legendary lineup was not a sudden corporate disagreement, but rather the inevitable collision of two different survival strategies forged decades earlier in the harsh environment of the American South. If you also feel the depth behind the glow of those artists from that era, leave a like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next in-depth reports. Share your thoughts in the comments section. In a world full of calculation, like Hollywood, where silence and a lack of communication the greatest tragedy of soulmates. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye, and see you again